Patrick Johnston of The Province and Post Media, always shining bright. And he's got a bee in his bonnet this morning because people are misunderstanding the story he wrote yesterday, quoting Canucks President of Hockey Operations Jim Rutherford on the JT Miller trade rumors. But is it trade rumors?
Well, let's first of all shout out to the my buddies on the Predators.
Stop the salacious speculation, reads the headline.
Shout out to my buddies on the Predators out at 8 Rinks who quizzed me post-game last night.
Oh, really?
I'm sure they did. I've been everybody I meet these days pulls me and says, so what's really going on with JT Miller? I don't know if you can say too much if you know, but what's really going on
PJ, you
with
should
JT?
see what a hockey dad said to me the other day.
6 times in the last week.
A hockey dad the other day, like, I heard it, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I had somebody call me the other night, Matt, just so you know, here's what I know about JT Miller.
This is like Connor Bedard's thing, right?
Yeah, well,
right,
someone said to me, maybe the Canucks should have a press conference and just be like, listen, there's all kinds of stuff swirling around. I get people. People are so thirsty for a scandal. It's actually unbelievable. But anyway, so in this note, I started hearing stuff. Listen, what people do in their lives, who knows? I don't know. I don't know if any of this stuff's true. I just don't even want to get into that. But I sit there and go, there is a lot of noise, and people are talking about all kinds of things. And so I called up Jim Rutherford. And I asked him why, I wanted to mostly ask about the Hronek stuff. They have a story up today. They're not in a rush to make a trade, by the way. But then we also came to, I said, listen, Jim, I sort of probed, I was going to ask off, and he goes, no, we can talk about it. And I said, he goes, I don't know, we don't know when Miller's going to be back. And then I kind of make this offhand comment about, there's a lot of people chatting about a lot of different things. And he goes, essentially what you saw. He said people should stop speculating about personal stuff. And then he goes, but you know what? Just get back to making up trade rumors. And it wasn't. He was very calm and reasonable. But seem to be some people out there.
It sounded cranky. It sounded cranky. It sounded cranky. But I understand where the confusion comes in because immediately when he follows with the trade rumor stuff, it sounds like he was having a bit of fun,
and he was having a bit of fun. He said, "No, listen." As he said, I said off the top, he knows information vacuums create chatter. And he's spot on. And
he's one of the, especially in the Carolina days, he was one of the biggest sources for all the insiders out there. Like down there in Carolina with no hockey attention, Jimmy was quite a talker to all the. So listen, Pittsburgh too.
You can perhaps quibble with how they handle it, whatever. But here we are. They are very aware that in the end, you say one thing, people are inevitably going to want to talk about other things. But essentially, his point is, there's a personal issue here. Let's leave it alone. Let's get you guys fill your boots with trade rumors, but also, and then so I went because he said it, and then I was like, oh great, thanks Jim, and I was like, wait, and I called him back and said, Jim, just to be clear, you're not trading him, right? He goes, no, oh my. And then there's the question at the bottom, right? Wow. He goes, no, absolutely not.
With regards to the tone, with regards to the tone being implied here, first of all, we should say. Tone. This organization does make its own bed, though, a little bit. They are so top down so often. They love to lecture everybody on everything that if people attach tone where there is none,
I'm just saying.
Please forgive them.
And that was why I asked Matt before the show. Matt, how are people reading this into it? Because I thought it was a very nice, reasonable conversation. Yeah. Leading off with, he was happy to be back in Pittsburgh because Matt Cullen and Kevin Stephens, two people he has a ton of time for, are going into the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame. He was in a very good mood.
Duly noted.
But to be clear, they're not trading JT Miller while he's on personal leave, right?
I guess. I did not.
Once he's off personal leave, are they willing to listen to Chris Drury and others who seem to be beating down the door for JT Miller?
It was a pretty firm no, I think. I mean, I did not clarify any time frame when they might trade him, but to be honest, it was a pretty no. We're not trading him. We're not trading him. We stand by our player.
So, and I noticed your story also said, the ball is now in JT Miller's court. I hope I'm quoting it accurately.
Yes,
and. you have also been the one who noted that, look, this has not yet been made clear whether this was totally on JT's volition or in concert with the team, although it certainly sounds like the team may have been involved here. I'm not sure if it was the initial
that part
push.
I don't know. Yeah, I haven't.
If it was the initial push or just the team was like, yes, we think this is a good idea. Let's do this together.
Yeah.
So the question becoming, can we put Humpty Dumpty back together again? Like when he's ready to return, is everything going to be fine here? Can he get back to being the star player and catalyst number one centerman that the Vancouver Canucks and their fans know and love?
Whether it's true or not, that's a great question. Certainly, the positioning the Canucks are taking on all this is that, yeah, absolutely, that this is going to be a. Yeah, exactly. I think your analogy is great. That yes, absolutely, they will be able to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. Yeah. So there's not many details around it other than clearly this is about getting his head right. A mountain fell down on an emotional mountain fell on him at some point for some reason. No one's got into details on that, and that was kind of his point about this is a personal matter. Let's leave it alone. I mean, maybe it'll come out, but yeah. So, but the implication is that he just needs a little bit of time, and that when he comes back and when he's ready to come back, that he'll be ready to, as I said in my first story, ready to beat the other guy. That's his thing. Beating the opposite guy is what he is passionate about, and he had not been able to do that. He was struggling to do that, and that was
within the first 48 hours of this being announced. There was sort of somebody, some reporter had mentioned that maybe it would be the duration of the road trip. That isn't.
Yeah.
That
was my impression.
Obviously.
That was my impression, that it was at least the road trip, and that. Mm-hmm. Who knows? But
I mean, much like the Demko return timeline, it's anybody's guess here, isn't it? Like it just keeps getting pushed here. It doesn't feel like it's imminent, does it?
No, it doesn't. And it's another. Like you mentioned the Demko situation. It's another situation that does seem. I mean, I can understand in terms of mental health why it should be player driven. But there is an element. I'm curious to see how we'll look back at this period of time. Because if you read the CBA, under the CBA, it is up to the team to determine when the player plays again. Right? Like health is a team. The team has the final hammer. But there has clearly been moves around the league where this has been shifting away. Right? You think about Jack Eichel, for instance.
For sure.
Robert
Lehner, yeah. Although perhaps a bit more of a complicated situation.
They're all complicated. They're all complicated.
Yeah,
but I mean, mental health. Mental health. The only symptoms you have are what the patient tells you they have.
Yes.
Right. So
yes, but at the end of the day, so for Demko, I don't know. I don't know whether there's someone sitting there saying, "Hey, you're ready to go? You could go, don't you think?" I mean, I know there's people who want to. I don't know. That's not something any of us have been able to sort out. But it does seem to be very much on how comfortable are you ready to go? What do you think? Because it is that one is an unusual injury, and so part of me wonders: is this have we reached some kind of turning point in terms of how player health is handled, especially with sort of serious issues? Whether that's in your leg or in your head, but no, it does. It certainly doesn't feel like. I mean, it doesn't feel like he is imminently going to be playing. Whether he's going to be playing Friday. I mean, my impression is that he's been doing everything he knows to do physically outside of playing and practicing, I suppose, with the team. But it's not like he's sitting on a couch somewhere. I mean, metaphorically, I'm sure he is, but physically, he's
On Demko, would you bet moderate sums of money that he would play versus Columbus or Tampa? If I gave you both of those games as options, would you jump on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I wrote a month ago was that that everything was tracking towards by the beginning of December. Well, now we're in the first week of December, so if everything is on track, and that was sort of things go right, everything works out. We hope that he will be ready to go.
I mean, if you buy what they've been saying about, they want him to be ready after after he plays. They want to be able to take care of him and cool him down and all that sort of stuff. Tampa seems like the right nod because then you got the rest of the evening to sort of do some warm down.
Yeah, right. I mean, the only thing about Tampa, though, of course, is that it's an unconventional pregame, right?
Right. You don't get warmed up as conventionally. Yes.
Yeah. So to me, if you're going to pick a first game, it's either Friday or what's the next game after?
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Please.
To me, it's probably more like Friday or Tuesday, just because those are regular game days. They're not the weird modification that is.
Right, and you might as well get into the regular swing of things. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that said, I don't know. I mean, one of the questions I do actually have, I'm going to be probing into, like, getting out of that arena on Friday night is going to be a gong show. So
you might as well stick around and cold plunge. Honestly.
Like, where are you going?
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe they.
It's going to be like Game 7.
I cannot believe they actually scheduled this game up against the first of the last nights of Taylor Swift's global domination tour. Like, it's not like the weirdness that we had in the spring where it's Pearl Jam or Justin Timberlake or whatever. It's like this all-conquering tour that has been everything to everybody everywhere, and they're having like a security perimeter, all these things. And let's keep playing hockey.
Well, even Sunday's going to be a gong show too. I mean, getting out because the Swifties will be there by 3:00. Rest you.
And on the back of doing this with the Grey Cup, like,
yeah.
I mean, in England, the cops would say absolutely not. Right? Like the crowd control thing, like all the soccer, the cops have huge say in crowd control. They would be like, absolutely not. What are you doing? Different countries.
Are you daft? Go back. I know you don't want to get too deep on this, but if you'll permit me a Four Nations question, are Besser and Demko snubs on Team USA?
Demko, I understand why not. I mean, it's if he were healthy, he'd be in. I think that's clear.
Of course, you can always replace, though. So, I wondered if they would go with here are 3 goaltenders, and then just replace Demko later.
Yeah. I suppose. I mean, you could have done that, but I think realistically, I understand why they just don't want to create the question. And Besser, listen, he had a great season last year. I would not have been surprised for him to be picked. But they got, they got a lot of wingers, and like in the end, the pace is an issue at that level, I suppose. The fact is that he's a really great NHL winger, but he has one recent really strong season under his belt. I mean, he's been a very good. I think he suffers a little bit from people not necessarily understanding who he is, and of course they've scouted this team out. They know who all these guys are. So Besser is I suppose I would call him a mild snub. I am a huge. I think people know I'm a huge Brock Besser guy, but that's because I watch him every night. So I don't watch.
And also, to be fair, that's a really good looking team, like with some really good looking wingers, right?
The U.S. has had good top sixes for a long time in Best on Best. It's been they now flush out 4 lines just like Canada does quite easily.
Do they ever? And the strength on the wing there is notable, like to the point where now they're going to have really good centers playing over on the wing, much like Canada has had in the past.
That's the thing. I mean, that is the other thing, right? Is that sort of positional flexibility. You could move a center to the wing, and
like Brock Nelson's not great, but he's a center, right? Like he can play down the middle. Yeah, he can play down the middle. So like.
I'm looking at I'm seeing mock-ups with Eichel and Trocheck playing on the wing. But
that's it. Like,
there's a lot of different ways that they can. Trocheck was an interesting one, but anyways, let's move on because I know you don't want to suffer this. And the goalies are Hellebuck, Ottinger, and Swayman. So
I mean,
again, not much lost there.
Who is he knocking out of there? Right, he's knocking out Connor. He's not knocking out Gensel. He's not knocking out. Are we calling Jack Hughes a winger? I don't know what we're calling Jack Hughes.
No, we're calling Jack Hughes a center.
He's a center.
He's not knocking out Kreider. He's not knocking out Larkin. He's not knocking out Matthews. He's not knocking out Kachuk.
The end of last year, like Tage Thompson, Jason Robertson are on every USA team, and they're griping in Utah and Montreal about Caulfield and Keller. Okay, moving on.
Friedman's finally. Let me just get to the Nils Höglander thing. Let's just put that continues to be a file that's pushed here. Yeah. I mean, do you have any update from your side of things on that?
Yeah, I think I was on Rinkwide. I was trying to think when I said this. It was a program in the Nation Network's Empire. I was on Rinkwide with Jeff, and we were talking about just where he's at, and a lot of it surprises me. Like he like I said this a few times now. He had a good start to the year. Rick Tocchet, I mentioned his name and wanted I think I've mentioned, people see the scrums. We get the 6 or 8 minutes or whatever with Rick. And then and you can ask him a question and he'll stick around for like 10 minutes and he is a hockey evangelist. He is very excited to talk about all kinds of things. And so I was taken aback, and he grew in stature when I mentioned Nils Höglander. And, this was early in the season. Oh, this guy, blah, 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 blah. And it's just been the complete, the Nils Höglander experience has been the complete opposite. And he has lost his way so badly. And now you look at where he's at in the rock. Like, I get why teams are interested, because they're saying, well, he's kind of a spare part. I mean, great, he's playing on the fourth line, but he's now in that old Ray, to steal the line from Ray. Like, the moment they stop asking you to do more, pretty soon they're going to start asking you to do a whole lot less, and that's a bad place to be. And that's kind of where Höglander is. Like, that's a roster spot that in the long run, you'd rather use on a guy who can kill penalties and make a mess on the forecheck. I mean, Höglander makes a mess on the forecheck, but he's not doing anything with it, and that is a problem. If he were producing in third, fourth line minutes, as they clearly want him to be, because they keep putting him out there, but he's not, and that's the problem. So it doesn't surprise me that the teams are interested in him, nonetheless.
Would you trade him straight up for Marcus Pettersson?
Yeah, absolutely. If you can do that straight up, all day, every day. Because you need.
Really?
I mean, fundamentally, you need to shore up your second pairing, and that is a redeployment of a player of a sort of a, what's the word? I hate the word asset. That's redeployment of talent in your roster. Because right now, he's not exactly pressing anybody above. Like, he's not taking anybody's spot away above him on the lineup, right?
Not above him, no. And with this Lekramaki call-up, you wonder, are you better off as an organization right now giving Lekramaki more looks rather than just, continuing
I
to
just
put
think that's
Höglander
I think that's... I think that's selling very low on Höglander for a rental 4-5-ish defenseman who's not great with the puck at $4 million. But that's just me.
Yeah, I get why you're saying that. I think if
he's
you're
a better
trying to win
Susie,
now,
though.
I think if you're trying to win now, Pettersson becomes a very good partner for Susie. Right? Or partner. Sorry.
So he's playing his offside now.
Well, I'm sorry. He's a very good partner for whoever you're playing with on the second pairing. He becomes which is is why Pettersson's not ideal. Listen, but I still think he makes your group better. Right? Yep. I think you'd rather Matt, listen. If that's offered to you and that's all you have, yes. I think you're still chasing after someone better. I think he makes your group
He makes your group better, albeit Susie's been better here. Jeff was knowing that. Yeah. We talked about that. Susie's been better, and Brandstrom's been pretty good too. So,
I'm not worried. So to be clear, I'm not worried.
A rental right side guy, Peach. That's a different matter for me.
Yeah, I think
a rental higher up the pedigree chain than Pettersson, like a legit, a 3-4 as opposed to a 4-5. That's a different matter.
I mean, here's the only thing I'll say about Pettersson. Listen, there have been choices made in Pittsburgh about who is partnering either with Karlsson or Letang, and Pettersson has been choice number one, right? Like, he is above Matt Grzelcyk and above Ryan Graves now. Now, obviously, that's not a very good team, but there is this internal belief still in that player, and he's doing on a team that's struggling to defend. He's actually doing a very good job.
Yeah. So, the other thing there contextually, Karlsson is either impossible to play with, or no, it's true. We've heard this from many different to find Erik Karlsson the right partner, especially in the new context, the new age of good defensemen should really play with another good defenseman who's decent with the puck because that's when you get the most out of them. Yeah. That's not Karlsson. So I think people are just resigned to, just go get a defensive defenseman who stands at his own blue line and let Karlsson play rover and do it that way. So, So you're right. Contextually, it's a bad team with bad left side defense. That's why he's playing up. Secondly, it is difficult to play with Erik Karlsson.
Okay, Peach, before you go,
Roenick, I want to get to Roenick.
Cole McCord, is he going to play though on this call up?
I guess so. I mean, they are very happy with where he's at. They need to see where he's at in the AHL. Mm-hmm. And, clearly they need to see where he's at in the NHL. They need to understand their options going forward. I do not think Cole McCord is the solution to Carson Soucy's long-term defense partner, right? I mean, I wrote this yesterday, right? The long-term ambition, I believe, with the Canucks is, Roenick comes back, assuming there are no other substantial injuries. Roenick comes back at the end of January. Goes back to being Hughes' partner, and you are finding a new partner for Carson Soucy because you're bumping Tyler Myers down to the third pair where he will thrive. So, yeah, I mean, I do not think Cole McCord is going to be the solution to that question. But I think the Canucks also believe he has an NHL future. And, his
profile's a good one.
His profile's a good one, and him being called up, I mean, listen, the fact they made the choice to go into LTI, they probably didn't have that choice anymore, like they had to. But it still was like, okay, I mean, you're taking advantage of the roster situation here now. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, I think what that also tells you that...
LTIR.
What's that?
We knew LTIR was going to arrive.
Inevitable.
It was inevitable.
Yeah. But I think in the end, it's also a thing about listen, if this is where they're going to operate, if they do make a trade, which, as I said, Jim Rutherford said, they're in no rush to do. But if they do make a trade, it could be more substantial than we were expecting.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you whether Roenick to LTIR means they've got something coming or they think they're close on something.
Yeah, I mean, what it means to me is that they are shuffling their... I mean, it is an active choice to reshuffle your... They were running short on time because of the fact that Demko's not back, and they have, inevitably... It also makes clear to me that Artur Shilovs will not be on the roster because they are going to need that cap space.
Of course.
The plan had been to keep all three, but I just don't. I just think they've now come to a point where that's not going to be. And of course, not having Miller on the roster. I mean, Miller comes back and maybe things change. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But
and of course, McCord is going to play because all he's got to do is be better than Desharnais or Friedman. So he's going to get that look, I think, on merit. But I think he's also going to get that look because of what you outlined, and that is you got to know where you're at with him and if he's a possibility.
Yeah, exactly.
For your third pair down the line.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Glad we got that sorted at the top of the interview. You were
there's a lot. There's a
shook there.
A lot of grist for the mill here today.
Clear as mud? No. We clearer? Is it open?
We're clearer.
Okay. It's not foggy.
Crystal.
Take care, guys.